This is Sports Fiend, and I feel like talking some boxing. The topic of the video is can anybody at or around middleweight beat Triple G Gennady Golovkin? Will he encounter problems if he moves up to super middleweight? Gennady Gennadyevich Golovkin, otherwise known as Triple G, is the current IBO World Middleweight Champion, WBA Super World Middleweight Champion, WBC World Middleweight Champion, and the IBF World Middleweight Champion. He started fighting professionally in 2006 and is currently 34 years old. He's an orthodox fighter. His last fight was a controversial unanimous decision against Danny Jacobs, where he retained the middleweight titles mentioned earlier. Gennady Golovkin is ranked number 1 on ESPN's pound-for-pound rankings as of today, just above number 2 Andre Ward and number 3 Vasyl Lomachenko of Ukraine. A prize fight between Gennady Golovkin and Andre Ward could have been a possibility in the past, but with Andre Ward now fighting at light heavyweight, the fight seems impossible to make. I think it would be detrimental to Andre Ward if he goes back down to 168, not to mention 160. That's not happening, to meet the request of Golovkin's camp. Gennady Golovkin has some impressive wins on his resume, including victories over Danny Jacobs, David Lemieux, Willie Monroe Jr., Martin Murray, Marco Antonio Rubio, Curtis Stevens, and Matthew Macklin. I would call Kell Brook an impressive victory, but Golovkin brought Kell Brook up from welterweight. Remarkably, Kell Brook was still one of Golovkin's toughest opponents. Many feel that Gennady Golovkin might have been exposed in this fight, and also against his next fight that was against Danny Jacobs. I had the fight for Danny Jacobs 8-4. You could say 7-5, with Jacobs winning the majority of the later rounds, with Golovkin winning a few rounds in the beginning, including a knockdown round. And looking at the rankings at middleweight on BoxRec, I don't see anybody in the top 10 or even the top 20 that can stand in the way of a Gennady Golovkin victory. The only person on the list I feel that stands a chance is 27-year-old Billy Joe Saunders, who is the current WBO World Middleweight Champion. Saunders' biggest victories are a majority decision over a 34-2-1 Andy Lee, and the split decision victory over a previously undefeated Chris Eubank Jr. Billy Joe Saunders is currently 24-0 with only 12 knockouts, giving him a 50% knockout rate. Chris Eubank Jr. would be an interesting fight for Golovkin, but I think Gennady Golovkin would be too much for Chris Eubank Jr. Due to the lack of threatening opponents for Gennady Golovkin at middleweight, let's look at super welterweight 154 and super middleweight 168. What makes this discouraging is that throughout his recent career, Golovkin has been unwilling to move up or down from the middleweight size of 160. This refusal to budge contradicts his current trainer, Abel Sanchez's statement, in which he said Golovkin would fight anybody from 154 to 168 pounds. Let's first look at some fighters at junior middleweight. The first obvious fighter I see that can possibly challenge Gennady Golovkin will be Saul Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is 48-1-1 with 34 knockout wins. I see this as a power versus power matchup, and weight shouldn't be a problem due to Canelo often entering the ring well over the middleweight limit. Some may say Erislandy Lara could be a challenge for Golovkin, but I don't think his size or power would be enough to hurt Gennady Golovkin at middleweight. Jamal Charlo of Houston, Texas, has recently moved up from 154 to the middleweight division while vacating his IBF belt at 154. Jamal Charlo is long and rangy for the middleweight division, standing 6 feet tall and possessing a 73.5 inch reach. Jamal Charlo also had a lot of power at 154, generating 19 knockouts over 25 fights, taking no losses in doing so. It'll be interesting to see if he can bring that power to middleweight. And that's a knockout rate of 76%. We now will look at 168 or super middleweight. I am reluctant to mention any of these fighters due to Gennady Golovkin's reluctance to increase in weight to 168 or to even meet halfway with these fighters. I feel his biggest threats at 168 are Gilberto Ramirez, James DeGale, Badu Jack, and the Durrell brothers, Anthony and Andre. These guys, I think, will give Golovkin a lot of problems due to their weight, height, and reach advantages. These are all fantasy fights, I believe. I say that to say I see Gennady Golovkin taking a 154-pounder or maybe even a welterweight again, i.e. Kell Brook, up to middleweight. But I don't see Golovkin meeting 168-pounders at a catchweight or even moving up to the full-fledged super middleweight. I'm interested to hear what comments you have because I know a lot of you guys are Golovkin fans to the end. So this is my outlook on Gennady Golovkin, and I'm Sports Fiend. Please subscribe.